lot of time thinking through why it is that we tend to gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight. And we do all these extreme things like crazy detoxes where you're not eating, hardly anything for 15 days. And then, losing this extreme amount of weight in a very short period of time and then gaining it all back. Like, what is it that keeps us in this cycle? Like, me included. I've been there, done that. And I'm just like, okay, God, I need you to reveal what is the thing here. And as he started doing that throughout this past year, like in 2022, he really started showing me some stuff about why it is I do what I do, why I keep going back to the same habits, the same old junky habits that I've left in the past, so to speak, and I keep like going back to them and bringing them into my now, into my present, and they dictate my future. So what is it that causes me to do this? And so as I've been thinking through this, I really felt like the Lord just revealed this to me, and I'm still processing it almost a year later. So I think that most of us want to honor our bodies as the temple of the Holy Spirit. We want to treat our bodies well. We want to do good things for our bodies. But what happens is we do these extreme things. We try that to be the thing that's saying, okay, I'm going to take care of my body in this way suddenly. Like, I know I haven't been doing so hot. Now I'm going to try and do it. And then we get, to the doing part, and we get to the other side with the weight loss, and we think, okay, great. Like, I'm doing it. I'm honoring my body as the temple now. Well, honestly, like, the truth is you did not honor your body as the temple while you were doing the extreme things to lose weight that was actually unhealthy for your body and your mind. And you haven't really even addressed your mind or your habits along the way and became someone new in the process. So ultimately, the reason why we lose and gain is because we are shifting habits, or what I call behavior modification, for very short periods of time, and we're not actually being transformed or made new in the process by the renewing of our mind and becoming someone different, someone who actually is the healthy person that we want to be by showing on the outward the behavior modification of the weight loss. We're not actually becoming that on the inside. We haven't had an identity shift, bottom line. And I realized this when God brought back up to me the example I went through when I quit smoking years and years ago. I share this example because it's so powerful. So I'm going to share it with you right now. When I quit smoking a lot of years ago, obviously it was a really bad habit. It was something that was causing me to be unhealthy. And that habit is something that people can look at and go, oh yeah, I mean, obviously that's a bad habit, right? Like, obviously you shouldn't be smoking. It's not healthy for you, obviously. But then the person who's like struggling with food addiction or being completely consumed with food, like obsessed with food, isn't looked at like that's a bad habit. Nobody just looks at somebody who overeats and says, yeah, that's a bad habit. But we can see people who like outwardly do other things that we deem as bad, like cigarettes, smoking, or drugs, alcohol use, all that kind of stuff to the excess. There we go. Like, we can easily point that out. But what about our food? What about our habits when it comes to our body, our health, our mind, and like all the things? So when I quit smoking, the process looked a lot like this. Quit cold turkey several times, and I couldn't stay quit. And that equates to extreme dieting. Like, so when I quit cold turkey, that was like the equivalent of me starving myself. Like, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm just gonna like bootstrap it. I can do this, lose all the weight, and then I'll magically be somebody new on the other side of it, and it's gonna be great. I'm just gonna have like kicked all the bad habits to the curb by like forcing myself to quit and not smoke or not eat. And so I did that several times, and obviously it didn't work out. Maybe not obviously, because you've never battled that addiction, but for me, it didn't work out. I just kept trying the same thing over and over again and getting the same results, which was failure. And I had to like take a step back and say, okay, after years of this, I mean like a decade of doing this, I stepped back and said, okay, I need help. Like, what do I do, God? What's the answer here? And when I got to the point where I just surrendered, because what I was doing, I realized wasn't working. So I had to lay my pride down on the table and say, I can't do this and I don't know what to do. So I really felt like the Lord asked me a question in that season when I finally laid it all down on the table and said, why do you want to even quit smoking? And I was like, well, because it's a gross habit, or well, because I don't want my skin to prematurely age, or well, because I don't want to smell bad, or well, I mean, a very surface level reasons, until he kept saying one more, like, go deeper. Okay, and what else? Until I got to the point where I was like, actually, I want to quit smoking because I just want to honor my body as the temple of the Holy Spirit, and I want to live the longest, strongest life, healthiest life that I can, and be a good example to those around me. And so once I finally decided that was my why, he asked me to shift my identity to already become, in my mind, who I wanted to be. And so I started thinking like a non-smoker. I started identifying as a non-smoker before I became a non-smoker. And so I hired a coach. I had to remove myself from the environment that I was in with people who did the things that I no longer wanted to do. And it didn't mean I had to get in a whole new friend group or a whole new family. It just meant that I was no longer going to be out on the back porch smoking cigarettes, and is the same for me when I decided I need to identify as somebody who's healthy and makes healthy choices and does healthy things with my food habit. I could no longer say, like, I could not be in the environment for myself, and maybe this isn't you, but for me, I couldn't be in the environment of restaurants, like, let's go out to eat 3 times a week type of stuff. Like, I just had to say no. Certain environments was not conducive for me making good decisions for my food and for my health in that way until I was ready, like until I had already become strong enough and truly solidified my identity as somebody who was this person, just like the smoking thing or whatever. I ended up getting some strategic things to do and put in place that would help me identify through the coach that I worked with as a non-smoker on a physical level. So I was working on the mental stuff on the inside, on the back scene, right? But then on the forefront, I was having to do actual physical things that was solidifying the identity shift as I quit smoking. So I rolled up a Walmart receipt, stuck some toilet paper in the end of it, taped that bad boy, and held that thing in my fingers until I didn't even need that anymore either. It was just the silliest things. It looked silly to everybody else, and people didn't quite understand, and maybe even razzed me and gave me a little bit of a hard time about why I wanted to quit smoking, or why are you trying to make yourself better, so to speak. Now you think you're better than us. You can't be over here smoking, or oh, you're going to be Miss Health Nerd now. Oh, she can't go to McDonald's. She can't eat this kind of food. Or I'm sure you've heard those types of things when you have decided to make a shift in your health in some way, and the people you've surrounded yourself with are the people who do the same types of things as you do, and now you're shifting and they're not, and there's like this friction, right? And it may not be a lot of friction, it may be a ton of friction, but for me in that instance, it was a ton of friction, and it's just it didn't work out for me at all. So that's when I decided I would just remove myself from the environment and situations as I was processing and becoming someone new, to kick that habit, which I did. I was able to kick that habit that time, and it's been over 15 years now, and I still am a non-smoker. So if somebody came to me today and said, hey, Catherine, you want a cigarette? I'd say, no, thanks, I don't smoke. It wouldn't even be a second thought. I don't even know anybody that smokes anymore, to be honest. I know people, but they're not in my life on a regular, daily. But I'm just not surrounded anymore by people who do the things that I no longer identify with in my life and don't want to do as well. So now if somebody were to ask me if I want a cigarette and I'd say no, it's kind of like, hey, do you want soda? And I'd be like, no, thanks, I don't drink soda. Because I don't, because it is not who I am. I do not drink soda. I don't smoke cigarettes. There's certain things I just don't do because it's not part of who I am. It's not part of my habits. It's not something that I do. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't do it. And the same is true for so many other things in my life. And so that's where I think God showed me that there's this missing link that you haven't quite put into play in your eating and your health. And there's a lot of other things to factor in as well. But the main thing, the serious foundational main thing of all of this is identity. And if you're not shifting who you are inside, internally, like truly grasping the worth of your body, the worth of your life, the simple truth that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, and God chose to dwell in you, and we want to treat ourselves as well as possible. That's like the number one thing. And so when we're doing all these extreme things and we're trying all these diets and we're like, well, it's worked for a short period of time and now I'm going to go right back, to what I was doing before, and we wonder why it's not working, it's because we haven't had a mindset shift. So people say weight loss starts in the kitchen, and I disagree. I think weight loss starts in the mind, and then the kitchen is just part of it. Like working out is part of it, but working out alone isn't going to be the thing that you need to go to for weight loss. Eating salads all the time isn't the thing that you need to go to for weight loss if you haven't had an identity shift in your mind first. So really, like, that's the answer. And that's what I work with myself all the time on, others all the time on. And I just have to be honest, when I'm walking through changing and shifting or learning something new in my own life, I feel like there's a greater attack on my life from the enemy. And in the area of health, it's definitely been true. And everything that I teach, if I'm like writing a certain portion of my course and I'm trying to get that recorded and ready to go, or when I was writing my book, like the same thing is true. Like anytime I start to make a shift or like step in this direction of change, the enemy comes against me. I mean, like he comes at me with like everything he has, and I'm having to walk through physically, emotionally, spiritually, what I'm even in the process of teaching others. Like I'm having to walk through that at an even greater level, and like it's tough. So what I've realized recently is when we're not experiencing or letting ourselves feel the feelings that we have going on the inside of us, we are so much more susceptible to allowing food to rule in our lives and be the thing that we run to numb out, and or to go to for a source of friendship or companionship, so to speak. We tend to create really, oh, there's such a pretty butterfly over there. Oh my gosh. Just beautiful. Oh, it's gone. Okay, super distracted by the butterfly. Sorry about that. And it's like the perfect day for being outside, I think. But anyways, when we're not allowing ourselves to feel, and we start creating, or maybe we started creating a bad relationship with food, or our food story's been off since we were a child or whatever. But if we don't deal with our feelings and we have put food in the wrong place, it's time for us to take food off the throne of our life and put God back on the throne of our life. And that's not always easy. And we think, well, I have God on the throne for sure. But where do you run to first when you've had a stressful day, or when you're feeling really crappy, or when you're feeling hormonal? Where do you run? Do you run to the throne of God, or are you running to the cupboard of your kitchen? Serious questions. Like, no condemnation either, because I am like the queen of I'm running to the cupboard, and I love the Lord so much. So this is for real. Like, this is stuff that happens, and it's not like you're bad and I'm good and I've got it all figured out. Like, no, this is just life. Like, this just happens. And if we can't process out our emotions and we shove them and internalize them and run to food, like, we're constantly going to be going back and forth on the what I call diet roller coaster of life, like up and down and all around, and it's just no fun. And so recently I've been experiencing a lot of anger. Like, there's been, like, outwardly I'm not angry, nobody would know it, but internally I'm angry. It's because I've been processing out some things, going through some stuff I'm dealing with, and it's very important to deal with your mental health, and that's what I'm doing. And new things come up in life all the time, and then there's some things that maybe is coming up now that it wasn't time for it to come up before. And so I always feel like God gives us things to deal with in layers, like an onion. Like, so there's a new layer to deal with. He doesn't just throw it all at us like a tsunami all at one time, because like that would drown us and knock us over and probably kill us, right? So we have to take little bite-sized pieces of, like, okay, here's a new thing we're going to be dealing with this. And so there's been a lot of anger like inside, and I've realized it's because I've been shoving so much like away. And it didn't happen like just all of a sudden I'm angry. Like, it was happening over a long period of time, and I chose to ignore the feelings that I was feeling and like shove them under the rug and say like those don't exist. But I didn't consciously like notice that I was doing it. It just happened over time until suddenly I'm like, okay, why am I responding this way? Why am I having these thoughts? And I do a lot of self-evaluation. And self-evaluation to me just looks like, okay, what's going on? How's Catherine doing right now? Because if you don't have people asking you in your life, how are you doing? Or what do you need right now? Ask yourself. Just be that for yourself. Ask yourself, what do you need right now? How are you doing? And so I was recently doing that, and I realized I'm not doing well. Like, I've just been really struggling with angry thoughts because I've been shoving things that happen, grief, like death of loved ones, loss of a job, things in my personal life haven't been the way that I hoped and dreamt that they would be in different areas of my life, and like all the things, like there's just a lot of stuff. And this is like true for everybody, right? And so I wasn't paying attention to those for too long, and they became these internal like thoughts. And so I didn't realize that I had said in my brain so often, I don't care. And this is like a lifetime of stuff. This is not just like last week or 3 years ago. This is a lifetime of how I have coped in my brain with really hard things. And it's not a good thing. It's just that I notice it. And maybe you're like this too. You know, you say, okay, I don't care. I don't care. Because if I don't care, then I don't have to care. Then I don't have to be hurt when things don't work out the way that I thought they should because I don't care. Well, that thought ends up leading you to truly not care about anything in a way that you should. Like, for instance, my body. So I do what I call angry eating. And so that might sound funny, but instead of like stress eating or like sad eating or happy eating, for me, it's angry eating. And when I get to this place in my life where I'm just so angry and frustrated with the way things have gone, and I'm not allowing myself to speak up about them, I'm not allowing myself to process them, I don't have anybody to ping with, right, to get it out, then I tend to angry eat. And so that just means like I already say to myself so often, I don't care. So if I don't care, why do I care about the food choices that I'm making? Why do I care about being kind to myself when I'm so angry at me for something I didn't even do, like when I was a child, like the abuse and the stuff that I endured? Or maybe you've had other hard things happen in your life, but that phrase, that I don't care, like rut in our brain, that thought that needs to be reframed and rewired in our brain, leads to making decisions like, I'm eating all this right now because I feel so much pain internally. I'm going to hurt myself on the outside too by making choices to eat things that are not healthy for me. So that's just one example of how we can allow food to take the wrong place in our life if we're not careful. And it doesn't happen obviously. It happens subtly. It's like just all of a sudden, you almost like you open your eyes for the first time suddenly and realize, how did I even get over here? Like, what happened? Have you ever driven your car somewhere and you're like, you know, thinking, I got from point A to point B, and you think like, I don't even remember going through the red light, or how did I get here? Because you were on autopilot, just kind of muscle memory driving, but your brain was totally somewhere else. And so the same thing goes with the way that we end up creating these habits around food. And it's so wonderful to have somebody to walk through figuring out, identifying those thought patterns that you have, or like where you need to dig up a trench and like get out of the rut and like rewire your brain and think new thoughts. And like, it's so helpful to have somebody to do that with you. And I think that when we walk in our Christian lives, we are usually isolating ourselves because we don't think anybody else goes through the same things we are. And if we're going through them, something must be wrong with me, you know, or I can't show my weakness, I can't show my problems, I can't show my pain, because then I'm not doing what they're doing and they seem to have it all together, so something must be wrong with me, keep it all hidden. And that's not true. So like, be honest, find somebody in your life that you can be honest with, that you know is a safe person. And sometimes that safe person honestly, sadly enough, is not the people that are inside of your life on an intimate level. Sometimes a safe person is going to be somebody that you don't even know, like a therapist, a coach, a counselor, somebody that's just completely unbiased outside of your life that can really listen to you without any like preconceived notions about who you are or whatever. Like they don't have any emotional ties to you in any way. And so sometimes that's helpful too. But being able to process it out is really important. So anyways, I just wanted to share all that because, hey, I've been processing it out. And so I'm working through this stuff and it's not easy at all, but I practice what I preach. Like seriously, I have not been doing well at times, and there's times when I'm like, okay, I know I need help. I know I need to reach out to somebody. I know I need to get this pain dealt with, and the person that maybe caused the pain isn't the person that's going to fix it, because there's not going to be a resolve there. So I might as well fix it, like go and get myself together, because you can't change anybody else, but you can work on you, right? Like you can only deal with you. And I don't want the I don't care statement to cause me to go running to food because I'm like, I don't care. Like I don't care about anything. And that's just not good. It's almost like anger, depression, anxiety, overwhelm, all those types of emotions can cause us to feel or think things that are just not helpful for us. And so that's where it's so important for us to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And so practicing what I preach to me is like, I'm going to go to my journal, I'm going to go to the word, even if I don't feel like it, and I'm going to spew out all the junk that's going on the inside of me on the pages of my journal. It's just great to get it all out on paper and be real and honest about what you're thinking and feeling, at least with your paper. It can't judge you or speak back to you. And then taking the time to go to the word and just read whatever it is you need to read for the day. Like find some scripture promises of God. And that's something that I help you with. If you haven't joined the Drop the Weight group on Facebook, you can join the free Facebook group. It's just for Christian women on a weight loss journey who are just in need of help with their mental health along the way. And so that's what I help with. And so I try to share things that are helpful, encouraging, motivating, true with you. That way you can go and find like good resources if you need help with that, or just reach out to me and say like, I'm struggling with this. What would you suggest? Type of stuff. So it's just more like, it's an easier way for us to be connected on a closer level than this platform, at least. And I just want to encourage you to take time to really shift your identity and think about what it is you're thinking about. Get it down on paper, like let those thoughts come out of you so that they don't affect your actual decision making in life, and say, okay, I'm going to pay attention to this so that I can deal with how I feel, and then I can heal and run to the throne of the Father instead of the throne of food that we've built up in our life, and let somebody help you. And if you don't have anybody to help you, if you need somebody, reach out to me, please. Like get on my calendar, let's book a call, let's chat and see if working together and taking the Drop the Weight signature course program would be beneficial for you. I know it has been life-changing and transformational for so many other women who have taken the plunge and said, yes, I want to do something different. I'm tired of trying to do the same thing over and over again and getting the same junky results, and taking my old crappy habits into my future and making that not so fun either. So reach out to me. The link is in the description for you to be able to reach out to me all the ways, and I cannot wait to talk to you soon.